Reasons matter, but understanding the reason behind critical events, even more so. Hey, there's a reason for the season of Christmas, but Jesus is not the reason for the season. Today, I'll tell you what is. Merry Christmas, everyone, and welcome to Mornings with Bishop Robert. You know, you're always welcome here. My goal is to introduce people to the Jesus they never knew, and then help them get to know him and his word personally and better. So if our time together today speaks to your heart, let me invite you to like, subscribe, and share with a friend. Also, if you'll click that link in the description, you can download a copy of my book, Count to One, and get Mornings with Bishop Robert sent directly to your inbox every day. Lots of other great benefits too, so click the link in the description and find out all you need to know. Well, as I said, reasons matter. They always have, and they always will. When you know the reason something was done, it can change your total perception. Look, if I tell you that my neighbor was out for a walk last night and ended up getting slashed across her abdomen by a man she'd never met, you'd have one picture come to your mind. But if I tell you that my pregnant neighbor went into labor while she was out for a walk, and she had to be rushed to the hospital for an emergency C-section, well, you get an entirely different image. See, reasons matter, and sometimes they change everything. I have a bit of an interesting reputation in my neighborhood, due in large part to the combination of having a garage full of tools, some of them admittedly a bit obscure, and an improvise, adapt, and overcome approach to problem solving that was drilled into me by the U.S. Marines. My neighbors call me MacGyver. Now, if you're not familiar with the name, he's the title character of a fictional TV series who's always coming to the aid of someone with some unique and effective solution to their problems. Well, not long ago, one of our neighbors and her 7-year-old accidentally got locked out of their house. Unfortunately, their newborn baby was locked inside of their house, alone, and crying. Well, the neighbor immediately went next door to ask for help. And Mario said, "Oh, we need MacGyver." Well, a few minutes later, the newborn was back in her mother's arms and all was well. Well, all except for the lock on the front door, that is. But my point is this. If someone had told you, "I happen to know that Bishop Robert broke into his neighbor's house a few weeks ago," you'd have a very different picture. Now, you might even have some questions. I mean, if you know me well, you'd likely come to the conclusion that there was nothing wrong with what I did, but there had to be a very interesting story behind it. But if you don't know me, you might wonder why a burglarizing bishop isn't in jail. If you only hear part of the story, you can totally misunderstand what actually happened. Because reasons matter. And sometimes they change everything. And that brings us to today's verse. God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. Now, the first part of the verse tells us part of the backstory. God didn't send his Son to condemn us. That's good news. I mean, let's face it. He could have. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to see that the world hasn't learned a lot from Noah's lesson. King Herod was heartless, self-centered, and cruel. He killed his own children, several of them. Caesar's army was known for its viciousness. All over the earth, people were vile and violent and lawless. Even the religious leaders are corrupt. Some people in Jesus' day were expecting the Messiah to come from heaven on a white horse, accompanied by legions of angels, and they thought he'd overthrow the government and every malevolent oppressor and free the people of God and establish a kingdom where he'll rule in justice and in peace. He could have done that. Spoiler alert, that's the next time he returns to earth. But God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world. He didn't send Jesus as a conquering warrior to crush the nations with a rod of iron. He had a different reason in mind. And reasons matter. And sometimes they change everything. The second part of today's verse says that God sent his Son to save the world through him. There was a price to be paid. It was a ransom payment. The Father sent his Son to give the world an offer of incomparable value. The reason the Father sent his Son was to effect the great exchange: bondage for freedom, filthy worthlessness for precious purity, abandonment for acceptance, slavery for freedom. You've probably heard several phrases intended to remind you of the real reason for Christmas. Perhaps you've been encouraged to keep Christ in Christmas. Well, that's a good reminder. I've sent out Christmas cards and letters to friends and wished them a Merry Christmas with the 6 capital letters CHRIST written in capitals just to drive the point home. You've likely been told that Jesus is the reason for the season. That's a nice concept. I mean, if you're getting overwhelmed with the pressures of gift giving and all the various celebrations and guests, it's a good thought to bear in mind. But it missed the point. And reasons matter. And sometimes they change everything. Read the verse again. God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. You see, Jesus is not the reason for the season. You are. You see, he came for you. That's all the time we've got this morning. Before you go and celebrate the rest of your Christmas, can I ask you to help me introduce people to the Jesus they never knew and help them get to know him and his word personally and better? Please like this video to help more people see it. And then click follow or subscribe so that you and I can get together every day. Click the link in the description. You'll get the free copy of my book, Count to One, and Mornings with Bishop Robert sent to you every morning in your inbox. One final thing. Share this video with a friend today, would you please? Because as you do, you're part of the team, touching hearts all over the world with the love of Jesus. Thanks for helping, and Merry Christmas.